Good evening. Can you hear me? Thank you so much for coming tonight. I just want to say a few words to thank Lannan Foundation. A few years ago, Lannan was very generous and sent me to this writer's retreat in Marfa, Texas. And at the time, my older son was 5, and my younger son was going to turn 1. And for years and years, I was trying to finish a novel, and I hadn't even started because of the children and work. So I went to Marfa, and I had 19 days there, and I counted my days, and I counted my words of count. So I wrote for 18 days and finished my first draft in Marfa. And so I actually told Joe and Martha yesterday, I said, when I have a dog, I'm going to name my dog Martha. So I'm going to read a new story from the new book. It's quite long. It's a novella-length story, and it's published actually in Brigid's magazine, The Public Space, the latest issue. And just a few things you need to know before I start reading. So the story is about this woman in middle age reflecting about her life. So there are 3 storylines, and one storyline I pretty much have to skip, which is when she went to the Chinese army. So a lot of things happened in the army camp. And you would hear a few words about the army, but mostly the part of the story I'm going to read is about her life and her parents and her family life. And the title is Kindness. I'm a 41-year-old woman living by myself in the same one-bedroom flat where I have always lived, in a derelict building on the outskirts of Beijing. Apart from a trip to a cheap seaside resort taken with my parents the summer I turned 5, I have not traveled much. I spent a year in an army camp in central China, but other than that, I've never lived away from home. In college, after a few failed attempts to convince me of the importance of being a community member, my advisor stopped acknowledging my presence, and the bed assigned to me was taken over by the other 5 girls and their trunks. I have not married, and naturally have no children. I have few friends, though as I have never left the neighborhood, I have enough acquaintances, most of them a generation or 2 older. Being around them is comforting. Never is there a day when I feel that I'm alone in aging.
Thank you for the beautiful reading. I think we were both saying off stage that you almost made us cry. And I think you said that you almost made yourself cry.
A little bit, yes. I was afraid I was going to lose my voice.
I wanted to start by asking you about the beginning of the story, and specifically about William Trevor,
yes,
who you've mentioned as an influence. And I know with this story that it borrows from the beginning of one of his books.
Yes. So I always consider, William Trevor, the Irish storyteller, short story and writer, novelist, as my mentor. I feel that I learned writing by reading him. For years and years, I've been reading him. And in a way, I think of my writing as this way. You don't talk to your favorite author every day. I can't call Trevor every day and say, "What's up?" So the way I can talk to him is through writing. And specifically, in recent stories, I started to write in the way that I would have an idea, and I would choose one story that Trevor has written, and I would read the story, and then I would write the story in conversation with that story. So Kindness, it's a novella, and I had this idea writing about this woman's life in first person narrative, but I had the whole story mapped in my mind, but I couldn't start because I just felt I did not have that voice right. And there was a novella by Trevor called The Night at Alexandra. And I don't know if you have read that novella. It's a beautiful novella about this Irish boy, teenage boy in the 1940s in this small Irish town. And an English woman married to a German man because they felt uncomfortable living in both Britain and Germany. So they moved to Ireland, moved to this small Irish town. And this young boy sort of had an infatuation with the woman, but also became very close to the husband. And one thing about the husband and woman and husband and wife in that story was they're an older man and a younger woman. So I thought, when I had the idea of writing this novella, I thought that this novella would be a novella talking to his novella. And in a way, I imagined that my characters in real life, in this reality, would have never met his characters. But my character would talk to his character in this fictional world. So that novella started with, I am a 50-year-old man living in a provincial town. I have never married. I don't have children. So that's Trevor's opening. And I thought I would directly borrow that opening, writing my story. And then right after the first paragraph, it just became very natural that in a way, I think the woman was talking to the other narrator in Trevor's novella, in a way sharing her story about love and loneliness and her reflection about her life versus the man's reflection about his life. And that's how the story or the novella came about. And I'm just very happy about that. And I think it's the best I can do for a writer I love.
Mm-hmm.